While not nearly as well remembered by the general public as either Sam Cooke or Otis Redding, singer Jesse Belvin was in many regards a performer of equal stature whose career was also cut far too short by tragedy. At the time of his death, Belvin was moving in much the same direction as Cooke. He was even on the same record label, although signed earlier, and was scoring and writing hits long before Redding ever cut a record. Jesse Lorenzo Belvin was born in San Antonio, Texas, in 1932. When he was 5, his family relocated to Los Angeles, and by age 7 he was singing in church. He discovered R&B in his early teens, and in 1950 joined jazz saxophonist Big J McNeely's backing vocal quartet 3 Dots and a Dash. Belvin's falsetto was placed up front in his debut release, 1950's, All the Wine Is Gone.
Wow, all that wine is gone.
In 1952, Belvin and bandmate Marvin Phillips signed to Specialty. They cut 4 singles. The first 3, Baby Don't Go, One Little Blessing, and Love of My Life.
She said, moving out, baby. Yes, I'm. Dear Lord, dear Lord. My love will never.
Were credited to Jesse Belvin, and all failed to chart. The last, Dream Girl, which featured Belvin on piano and vocals with Phillips on saxophone, was credited to Jesse and Marvin, and got to number 2 on the R&B charts in 1953.
Why do you?
I'll tell you why. Dream girl, dream girl.
In the 1950s, singer Jesse and Joanne Belvin were married and talented African Americans, and they were both also songwriters. His business approach was rather cavalier. In a period in which millions of dollars were sometimes earned on a carefully protected copyright, Belvin wrote songs as a way of raising quick cash and often sold them outright to others for as little as $100. The result was dozens upon dozens of songs that Belvin was responsible for as writer and singer on the demo or guide track, few of which he actually received credit for. In 1956, he signed a long-term contract with Modern Records, and also continued to sing for other labels under assumed names, working in the background with other artists. Some of the Modern releases were credited to the Clicks, which was really Jesse Belvin and Eugene Church, but most were credited to Belvin alone. Unfortunately, just as it looked like Belvin's career was going to take off, he was drafted. While home on leave, he wrote a song called Earth Angel, inspired by a young white woman who lived near him. The song was subsequently recorded by a semi-professional doo-wop quartet called the Penguins and became one of the first R&B singles to cross over onto the pop charts, selling 1 million copies between late 1954 and early 1955. A lawsuit later erupted over the authorship and origins of the song, which took almost 2 years to settle. Belvin was awarded 1/3 credit for the song, alongside the Penguins' Curtis Williams and a third singer who had a claim to writing it. His biggest hit on Modern Records was Good Night My Love, which reached number 7 on the R&B chart.
Good night, my love. Pleasant dreams and sleep.
B chart. Some sources report that the piano on the session reportedly was played by 11-year-old Barry White. However, in an interview in 1995, White denied this. The song became the closing theme to Alan Freed's rock and roll radio shows. Belvin's other recordings for Modern were less successful, and in 1958, he recorded on Dot Records with a group, The Shields, who included lead singer Frankie Irvin and guitarist Johnny Guitar Watson. Their record, You Cheated, reached number 15 on the U.S. pop chart and number 11.
You cheated, you lied, you said that you loved me.
During his time at Modern's record, he only recorded 10 songs. And his biggest record was Good Night My Love. Belvin was on the road by 1958, establishing himself as a recording artist for several companies such as Night, Chess and Jamie Record. During this period of time, he recorded with the Sharp Tones for Aladdin Records. Belvin's career took off when his wife Joanne, a talented songwriter in her own right, who became her husband's manager, and took over the management of his career. One of her first significant moves was to get him a record deal with RCA. 'Guess Who was his biggest hit after signing with RCA.
really loves you. Guess who?
Now the fun fact about this song, that this started off as a love song that he wrote to his wife, but eventually he involved it into a song. In addition, he would release his studio album Just Jesse Belvin. On his album he had such a mature tone to his voice. Belvin new approach could easily be compared to Nat King Cole. Belvin, believe it or not, was a model for Sam Cooke before signing with RCA. During this period, he earned the nickname Mr. Easy. RCA was attempting to cross over Jesse to the white audiences, as well as a rivalry for Capitol Records for artist Nat King Cole. Belvin later recorded a series of songs for producer Marty Page, which was Blues in the Night, Still of the Night, Making Whoopee, all which was featured on his second album, Mr. Easy. However, before the album was issued, and shortly after finishing a performance on a bill with Sam Cooke, Jackie Wilson, and Mar Johnson on February 6, 1960. Belvin reportedly received at least 6 death threats prior to the concert. Belvin rarely called home from the road, and never more than once a month. But he phoned his mother twice in the 3 days preceding the concert, each time worried about hostile environment. The show was stopped twice because of belligerent whites angry over the idea that whites and blacks were mingling together in a concert setting who kept shouting racial slurs and urging white teens to leave. Afterwards, the various performers left town, though Prysock's Lincoln Continental and Wilson's 1960 Cadillac had had their tires slashed. As part of a caravan with Wilson, Belvin made it as far as Hope, Arkansas before his driver Charles Ford likely fell asleep, swerved off the road and collided with a car in the opposite lane. Charles Ford, who had been fired by Ray Charles for drinking and poor driving. Ford and Jesse were killed instantly. Joanne was taken to the hospital where she was drifted in and out of a coma. According to Etta James, Jesse and the driver of the car were killed in the crash instantly, but Joanne survived long enough to be taken to a hospital, where treatment was withheld by hospital administrators until cash was presented. According to James, friends at the scene contacted Jackie Wilson in Dallas, who either returned to Arkansas with the necessary funds or in some other way provided the money. Jackie had left Little Rock earlier than the Belvins, who were among the last cars to depart the venue. Joanne died later in the hospital due to her injuries. One of the first state troopers on the accident scene stated that both of the rear tires on Belvin's black Cadillac had been obviously tampered with. Jackie Wilson told the press that he had requested his lawyer look into the matter, but no official determination was ever made. Car accident, suspected murder. Belvin was 27 years old at the time of his death. Joanne was 23 years old when she passed away at the hospital. The Belvins were buried in Evergreen Cemetery in Los Angeles. Crown Records released the unforgettable Jesse Belvin in 1961. The late singer Etta James was quoted as calling him the most gifted of us all. Even now I consider him the greatest singer of my generation. Rhythm and blues, rock and roll, crooner, you name it, he was going to be bigger than Sam Cooke, bigger than Nat Cole. Marvin Gaye is quoted as having said, "When I saw Sam Cooke and Jesse Belvin, I'd try to avoid my friends and family for days. I didn't want to talk or be talked to cause I was busy practicing and memorizing everything I heard those singers do." Stevie Wonder, quoted on a YouTube video produced in 1976, said, "There is one person, Jesse Belvin, that is my favorite of all time. He did a song called, Guess Who? The late Jesse Belvin was my favorite artist. I would almost die to meet him. I really loved the music he gave us. There is so much sincerity in his voice." When B.B. King celebrated his 87th birthday on September 17, he closed his show with Belvin's Guess Who?